Okay, so welcome everybody to Maintaining Peaceful, the South African podcast of the year, sponsored by the Gentleman's Project. The Points Guy, sorry. So my name is Shalin and I am a year law student, and joining me is Juvani Dejan, a law graduate
Okay, I
of the
can't hear you,
University of
Shaylin.
the Western Cape. Really now. No. Juvani, can you hear me? I'm not muted.
Is it not? Why is there no audio? Mm, Shaylin, just check your mic quickly, please. Okay, I'll log out quick.
Giovanni, I think it'd be. Would you like to? Okay. So I would also just like to apologize for that. It seems like Giovanni is having technical difficulties, but in his absence, I'm going to continue. So our podcast today is about feminism in everyday life, and I'd like to put out a disclaimer that because the topic might um impact on people, and maybe a lot of people would have strong opinions and views on it. So I just like everybody to be mindful and respectful, and to just keep an open mind and be open to learning. Giovanni, I get you back. Can you hear clearly now?
Everything perfectly.
Okay, great. So without further ado, I'd also just like to delve in and start. So
Go
feminism
for
in
it.
everyday life. I would just like to start with what is feminism and what does it mean to be a feminist? Giovanni, if you want to share your thoughts and opinions, and then we just get into it.
Okay, in my view, feminism is about the advocacy for women's rights specifically. So I don't believe it's about egalitarianism. It's not about like equality. It's about first and foremost putting women's rights first and on the forefront over everything else. And then to be a feminist just means to be an advocate for women's rights, more importantly.
Excellent points. So, for those of you that don't, like I said, my name is Shailin. So, before knowing what feminism is really or what it means, I never saw myself as a feminist. I was always like, no, feminism or like feminist people are those type of people that would like go out of their way to make the lives of men like terrible, and they're just like
It
women
should though.
first and women only. Like that in my feminist that were very radical, like would like like I don't know how to explain it, but they're extreme people that were advocating for women. That was what I thought a feminist was. And then I just actually Giovanni was the person that was like, but Kaylin, you're actually a feminist. And I was like, wait, no, what? Me? How could I be? I'm not out here throwing men with stones and stuff like that's not me. But to
No, you were
me
in the
now,
closet.
a feminist is basically I can't hear you now.
I said you were in the closet basically
That
about.
I think
Can you still not hear me?
basically I was in the closet basically. Yeah. No,
But
I
the
can hear you
closet was.
clearly now. Thank you. So yeah, basically I was in the closet as Giovanni said, and I didn't realize until he put it out, and then now my view of it has changed. I'd also like to mention that Giovanni and I took this module called gender law, and I think
My
that also like opened my eyes, and I learned a lot about. Yeah, I learned a lot about it. So now a feminist is basically just someone that wants men and women to be on equal footing in terms of equal paychecks and women not getting violently assaulted and just being treated fairly and as a person with dignity. You know what I'm saying? Like not as like someone that matter or like just I wouldn't like to be treated. unfairly or be discriminated on the basis of the fact that I'm a woman, like that type of thing. Um,
Yeah, no, I
so
agree.
yeah, that's what a feminist is, and what a feminist means to me. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Giovanni?
Um, One other thing I'd like to add more important is that I don't identify personally as a feminist, only for the fact that I feel like when it comes to feminism, the people who should be standing in front are women. It makes sense with the women's right movement that women should be in the forefront. But men, it's very important that they, as allies, make sure to use their voice, especially when it comes to a case where they might have privilege in certain circumstances, to use their voice to amplify the voices of women and marginalized people so that they obviously can be heard from other people. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in before we continue.
No problem, but then now, based on what you just said, Giovanni, what qualifies you to talk about this topic as a man? And why do you think your opinion as a woman, you just say that women should be at the forefront of the feminism movement?
Yes, and I'm not trying
The
to
floor is
contradict
yours.
myself. Believe that women should be on the forefront of this. But I think it's very important that men, especially men who have a sort of privilege where they have other men that they interact with, people who come from a point where you know there's people who look up to you. So I think it's very important in that case for me to say, okay, listen, there's nothing wrong with advocating for feminism. There's nothing wrong with talking about how men can help with women's rights. So that's why I think it's important that some, as a male myself, to say, listen, as a cis hetero male, okay, listen, I'm in a perfect position to actually say to other men who see themselves in me and say, okay, listen, there's nothing wrong with this. It's actually good to advocate, and that you shouldn't be doing it just because, oh, listen, I have a sister, a mother, what a girlfriend. You should do it because women are people, and therefore they deserve equal rights. They deserve to be, treated as human beings.
Completely agree with what you said, and I just wanted to like add on to what you said about the fact that like not doing it because you have a sister and she's a woman or your mother's a woman. I think that's extremely important because most people do it for that reasons, and those reasons are valid, but it's not exactly like it doesn't really. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't really make sense all the time. So you're saying that you're not
Mm,
going to
I
eat that
definitely agree with
woman
you.
because you have a mother, instead of I'm not going to eat her because she's a
That's
person
like
and she's going to get hurt. You know, it,
after the relationship that woman has to
and
you, looking at the fact that her as a person, that in of
you may
itself is
continue.
enough.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you on that last part. Do you mind repeating?
Yeah, no problem. I was just saying, no, it's so important that, like, for example, the biggest example I always think of is when men say, when I had a daughter, I've suddenly realized how cruel the world is to women. And I'm saying, why did it take you that long? Like, why did it take you becoming a father to realize this? You shouldn't look at these people in terms of their relation to yourself, like, oh, my daughter, my sister, my mother. It should be rather a woman. That in of itself should be enough reason for you to believe that that person deserves rights, not the relation and proximity towards you.
No, definitely. And like you said, it's not just my sister, my mother. It's a woman, but also a person, a human being with feelings, thoughts, emotions. And she like we bleed too. Like if we get cut open, we bleed the same red blood. So it should be I'm a person, she's a person. Let's just not hurt her because we're both human. I think that we should also encourage the human aspect instead of just I'm a man, that's a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like that should also be important to engage with. And then also, you also mentioned about men like being because you are a man, you should also encourage not encourage the idea of feminism, but be proactive in like advocating for women's rights. And I think that was really important. And I want to hear how you have been proactive in like you've raised very valid points. What you as a man do to be proactive in encouraging the feminist movement?
Can you just repeat that last bit? Might have not heard everything.
to so how that you read some you read very I want to know that what you do to implement you basically just told us. So what do you do as a man to what do you do to advocate for the feminist movement and for women and of the feminist movement? Like what do you do as a man besides encourage other men to also like hop on the bandwagon and support women?
Okay. What do I do? It's going to be a bit of a repeat from what I said earlier. So, besides for advocating in terms of
Johnny, can
telling
you
other
hear
people,
me? Did you get
yes,
it?
I got majority of what you were saying. Um, what I think is most important, so like I said, besides for saying, okay, listen, advocating inside your personal space and telling people, that's no point just talking in an echo chamber where only people that agree with you. It's also important to call out when you see other men saying or doing something that you don't agree with. Because I noticed and I've seen that literally one man speaking up against something
Oh,
domino effect with everyone in the group because one person speaking gives everyone else license to agree with that person, but one person speaking out against that same thing will make everyone rethink what they have to say, and that's what I think is really important. And then I think opening up discussions of these kind of things. So oftentimes, if people feel like an issue doesn't directly relate to them, they won't discuss it. But if you say, "Hey, did you hear about the?" Let's say, for example, Roe v. Wade. While this doesn't directly affect us in our country, when you talk about, women's autonomy here locally and what do the people here think about it and that kind of stuff, it does, I think, open up the doors for people to actually realize that talking about women's rights and talking about reproductive rights and those kind of things. So that's what I try to do in my personal space when it be amplifying female voices, whether it be talking about issues where I feel like men should be a bit more. Um, it's not that their opinion should matter, but it's the fact that they should be informed about these rights and about why it's important that women have them. Just those are a couple examples I can think of off the top of my head. Okay. Let me find questions quickly. Shaylin, are you still there? Okay. I'm going to continue then without Shaylin. I do have the next question, so just give me 1 minute to continue with that. Okay. So, okay. The next question.
mm,
Okay. So the next question that we have. Oh, Shaylin, are you back?
can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No.
You can't hear me.
I am here. Can you not hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Yes. Okay, she's freezing. Um. Okay.
I am. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay. Sorry about that. I don't know what
Okay. As
happened.
long.
Um, I think I froze. Anyway, so I wanted to add on what you said, Giovanni. Can you just I can hear you clearly. I wanted to add on to what I can hear you.
Okay, yes, you wanted to add
Can
on?
you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can hear you.
I do apologize for what you said about women and bodily autonomy. I think that is a very important thing that you mentioned, because I actually have like, what did you say, Giovanni?
No, I was just
Okay,
saying,
so I
yes,
actually
continue.
have like but that week I was having this conversation with my cousin, who's an acquaintance of mine. Yes, I wanted. Did you hear what I said? Like, Giovanni, can. Okay. So basically, an acquaintance of mine uploaded a status where she said that she regrets telling this nurse that she doesn't want to have children. And then she said the nurse then proceeded to give a lecture on why she had to have children. And one of the reasons the nurse gave, what if your friend wants to have children? Thinking, how bizarre is in this world that we're living? That is currently 2022. Why does the decision that I make with my body, what does that have to do with, what does that have to do with a man that I might meet someday? What does that have to do with someone who's not married to him? He still doesn't have the right to make decisions about my body. If you want a child, adopt. You know what I'm saying? If you want a child, foster. There's so many. And I'm not even just speaking about like babies in general. Just women wanting to maybe hysterectomy. That's a big deal, because why? Why? What if you want children one day? And also, this thing that I don't like is that why is there an age limit on? Because I'm 20. I promise you, if I go to the doctor right now and I ask, okay, let me get a hysterectomy, they're gonna say no, you're too young. It doesn't make sense to me, because it's my body, and I feel like I should have full bodily autonomy over my body. But it's just not a thing, and it's weird. It's weird and it's troubling to be. So I think that you raised a very good point by bringing that up. And Christina in the comments is saying that she absolutely loves this topic, and I agree with her.
No, yeah, so I definitely agree with you. Like, the first
That
thing I
you'd
was gonna
like to
do,
add, Giovanni.
the first thing I was gonna mention now is the tying the tubes, because we know that when women go and try and have the tubes tied, the doctor will say, "Listen, you might meet the man one day." They're not even asking you, "Are you looking for someone? Are you married?" All this stuff. This, like you said, this mystical man that does or doesn't exist gets to decide whether or not you can tie your tubes. Whereas a man can walk in any day of the week, walk in, not even make an appointment, walk in and be like, "Listen, I want a vasectomy," and yeah, done. We're not gonna still ask this man, "Do you have a girlfriend? What does the future wife think?" None of that. It's just okay, because men really understand that, like, physical autonomy is so important. But when it comes to women, they feel like, you know what, a bunch of old white men need to sit together and decide whether or not women should be able to do what they want, because that makes sense for some reason.
No, definitely. And I think it also becomes a bit of a problem when women themselves are asking these questions. Like, you're so like, when are you gonna have a family? When are you gonna have babies? What if I don't want babies? I mean, my aunties are telling me no, but you should have them because you might want them. Like, no, that's not a reasonable answer. That's not even a valid answer. It doesn't even make any sense. Like, don't I get to choose what I want to do with my body? Because as you said, my husband might want the child, he might want the baby, but he's not going to be the one carrying the baby for 9 months. You know what I'm saying? So it's upsetting, but yeah, I guess that is the way it is, and I feel like we should really just um with regards to what's happening in the USA, I think we should all just like support in any way that we can. So sharing and uploading and trying to support the feminist movement, not even just here, but everywhere else. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
though,
definitely. I think there should
I'd
be an
like to know
outcry.
about how do you money?
You'd like to know?
Giovanni? Yeah, I'd like to
Yes, I
you
can.
know about you. How do you think that we use feminism in our? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay, so I'd like to know about you. How do you think that we use feminism or should use feminism in our everyday life, in our daily life?
Oh, okay. Um, I think it's gonna run through to what I said earlier. When it comes to feminism in daily lives, I just think of feminism in the workplace. I think of feminism in social settings. So in the workplace, when it comes to, let's say, advocating for fair wages, so that the pay gap, we try and eliminate that. When it comes to social settings, it's about making sure stomping out when we have people that are being misogynistic jokes, talking points, anything like that, microaggressions, anything to that effect. I just think that's when I think of everyday life settings. Interactions with everyday people, these small bits that we do have a larger effect than everything else.
Okay, and then also to add on to that, what you said, like the little microaggressions and like so like what I do, like I was hoping for like a more personal example, Giovanni, but we'll go back to you. So basically, what I do is when my mommy will say something like, "Lynn, you need to clean because your dishes are dirty. Because well, your dish is dirty, you girl," and I'd be like, "But that's a sexist comment to make." Because yes, I'm a girl, but that doesn't automatically mean because I'm a girl I should clean. My brother's of age, he's 16, why can he not clean? You know what I'm saying? So it's also things like that, but like you mentioned, microaggressions. And then I also think that sometimes people have been indoctrinated in such a way that they don't realize that they are being sexist or or anti-feminist. And I think that it's important for if you notice it to speak out about it. And like, but that comment wasn't that comment didn't sit right with me, and this is why. And sometimes I know that it might feel like, especially against our parents, like you're fighting a losing battle because they're very stubborn sometimes. But I think that pointing it out and every time and being like, but it's still not right, even though you've said you used it and it's never been right, it doesn't make it right now. Like we constantly changing and we're constantly evolving. So I think that in that way, um, people should also like stop and like just think like, okay, what I said wasn't right, and how do I go about like not saying it again or like saying something different or better and still getting my point across. Like instead of saying, Shaylin, you're a girl while the dish is not done, she could say, Shaylin, you've been home the whole day. I understand that you might be tired, but don't you think you can do the dishes for me? Like that, I would respond better to that. You know what I'm saying? Instead of because if you come at me and say you're a woman, your room is so dirty, I'm gonna be startled firstly, and then I'm gonna be offended, and then I'm gonna get upset because what does like I said before, what does my gender have to do with me being clean? You know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't. So yeah, so I think that's one way that we can use it in our everyday life, and I think that continuing to like regardless of pushback that we might get, like by continuing to like notice these little microaggressions and speak out about it, it's one of the ways in which we can uplift and encourage the movement to grow and expand. Would you like to add anything, Giovanni?
Yes, I would add one thing. Just to piggyback on your story, definitely agree with language is very important. So, like you said, rephrasing something will definitely help. But the more important reason, the reason the language is so important is because it communicates ideas. So, like you said, the idea that because of your gender, you should have to clean up, or the idea that you need to be cleanly because of, as a woman, it's the stereotypical things that are expected of you. So that's like you said. I think it's very important that, especially in our homes, that we do challenge these ideas because, like we said, our parents come from a different generation where this kind of thing wasn't expected. So I think even though, like you said, it might feel like a losing battle, I think it's very important that we still do have these discussions around the dinner table, or when we are in passing, when they see something, that we do tell them, listen, times have changed, we've moved on, we've evolved, and actually this is offensive, and actually this isn't actually what people say nowadays. And if you can, you try and say this as best as possible, and while still being respectful, explain to them what your viewpoint is and why you think such, and hope that they can try and adopt that over time.
Thank you. That was really good, Giovanni. And then I'd like to take it back to this is gonna we're gonna get a bit controversial now, tiny bit, but let's go. Okay, so the next point of discussion is feminism in South Africa specifically. So, this feminism in South Africa, do you think that the feminism movement in South Africa is where it needs to be, given the rife gender-based violence rates in the country? And what do you think can be done to improve the momentum of the movement?
If I'm being honest, when it comes to the movement and the feminism that we have here locally, I think women have been doing quite a bit if you think about it. And I think it's been that way for decades at this point. Do I think the movement's where it should be? No, but I don't think that's on a fault of women and the movement itself. I think it's more so an adoption and the current, I'd say, viewpoint and cultural aspects that South Africa currently stands with. So I think if there had been a wider adoption, because I mean, we've had this discussion about GBV for what feels like forever at this point. Um, we've been trying to talk about these same issues for over and over again. At this point, I don't think it's about them saying that, listen, people are dying, because everyone that turns it on TV, switches on the news, that listens to the radio, is aware of it at this point. So I think that in terms of getting the point across and getting the message across, that's what's happened. But the adoption has been very slow, in my opinion. We still have many men that are upset by words such as, not words, phrases such as men are trash, rather than being upset at the fact that their sisters, their mothers, their daughters, and like I said earlier, it's not just about that, but the fact that even people so close to them are falling like flies, and they genuinely are more upset about Twitter comments and Facebook comments than actually what's happening, the femicide that's going on in the country currently.
Also, to add on to what you said about the phrases being used, like that one phrase about where it's like trash and then like not all men. The phrase that not all men phrase just really rubs me up the wrong way, and for all the right reasons, because it's like there was, regarding this not all men phrase, there were like a whole lot of analogies to like combat that, and one of my most favorite analogies was when someone said, okay, not all men, but not all snakes are poisonous. So if I put you in a room full of snakes and tell you, okay, some of them are poisonous, some of them are not, will you go into that room? Would you? Would you be like, okay, not all of them are poisonous, I'm going to go into the room? You wouldn't do that because logic dictates that you might still get bitten and you might still die. So it's the same logic where it's like, okay, fine, not all men, but if I go into the street right now wearing maybe a mini skirt and a crop top, are you going to tell me that, okay, Kaylin, not all men, you know what I'm saying? Not all men you can go out like that. How many times haven't I left the home and my mom said, wear something longer, put on a different top, because it's not all men, but 99% of women or 98% of women. I'm not entirely sure about the stats, guys. Don't come for me, but it's enough women to make all women afraid. You know what I'm saying? Like that not all men and not all men. It's not. It doesn't make sense to me. Also based on what I said about the way I dress and the way I look, I promise you, if I go out in the studio, even wearing makeup, I get stared at. I get vulgar comments, and it's like, ignore them. It's a problem because they tell like, oh, you can't smile, oh, you can't greet. It doesn't make sense. But then if you do respond, and then it's like, oh no, but why are you entertaining it? There's really just like, there's no way for women to win if you look at it like that. It's always something. You're always caught between a rock and a hard place. And I think that men don't realize that because they don't have that danger. They don't go outside and think, okay, no, I need to hold my keys between my hands because someone might kidnap me. There isn't that risk to them. But for the sisters and the girlfriends, they're like, oh no, let me go with you. Let me walk into the shop. And I know I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but I remember I saw something on social media where this person was saying men protect women, right? And someone responded by saying, from what? From what? From what? Men protect women. Okay, fine. From what? From other men. Because I'm not going to go out of my way to hurt another woman. It has no benefit to me. Yeah, like it doesn't make sense for me to hurt someone I don't know, I've never met before, but it takes almost nothing for, well, not all men. to do that, if you get what I'm saying.
No, I completely agree,
So
and I
yeah,
understand.
that's how I feel. You were saying, Giovanni, you can add whatever you feel like adding. I know I went off a bit, but it just it makes me upset.
No, only thing I did, the biggest thing that the takeaway was, like you said, men and women live in two different South Africas, basically. Because, like you said, one world is where you, like you said, you have to walk with your keys behind your between your fingers. You have to send your Uber, what you call a trip. You need to send your last location. You need to send a picture of the license plate. You need to make sure you remember, is the child lock on in the car. You need to remember that can't take the same road home every day because someone might be watching you. You need to remember not to flirt back or not to say something, but at the same time not to be too rude because you never know how the person's going to react. It's all these different things and defense mechanisms that women have built into them, instilled in them, right? And the problem with that is, right, men genuinely sit here and, like you say, will say not all men, because when they see themselves being treated as a predator, which, and then they have the audacity to be defended, not to be defended, to be offended in that regard when they see a woman act. I'm like you said, the perfect analogy you gave. If even just one snake was poisonous, why would you take the chance? And that is the case. But in South Africa, we know it's not just one case because, unfortunately, if we switch on the news, we hear about, unfortunately, half a dozen women every day that go missing, that are killed. And these are by people that they know. It's always that's important to note. These are by husbands, brothers, fathers, okay? These are intimately known people to them. So they can't even feel safe in their own home. They can't even feel safe within their own family, within their own friend circle, with their lover. There's literally no place that's safe in South Africa, unfortunately, for women.
Yeah, I'd also just like to address a comment that Kaylin made in the comments. She said that the unfortunate part of living in South Africa as a woman is that we are always going to live in that fear. And I I just like to address it by saying that it doesn't really always have to be, part of life in South Africa. I feel like that we have evolved a lot as a nation in terms of we're not where we want to be right now, and with regards to gender-based violence, it is very um oh, I didn't see that. So she said the
Yeah,
unfortunate part of living in South Africa is that we are always going to live in fear, and that until we come together and we make a fight, that we have been fighting, things will happen. Community together, voices together, fight together, we will get through this. Yes, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to respond. So yeah, it's an unfortunate part of living like this, but it doesn't always have to be part of living. I think that we can do more, and that eventually, hopefully, we'll create a solution, or like for the betterment of society and women. So 100% agree with what Kaylin is saying in the comments. Thank you so much for your comment, Kaylin. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Ronnie? Or
no, I definitely agree. Like you said, I think it's important that you don't lose hope in this regard. That change will only happen, obviously. And unfortunately, change has been slow. I wish it wasn't, not the case. But it's something where you constantly have to keep fighting because the minute you stop, that's when things start going backwards. So at the current rate, people are already having to fight for the rights that they already have, let alone trying to fight for a future tomorrow, like for tomorrow. So what I think is most important is that we realize that, listen, things can be better and they will be better. And the way to get there is obviously, like you said, to come up with solutions. So that's why it's so important that we are community driven by the fact that if discussing all this together, someone will come up with a solution. Someone will come up with an action plan to then implement that solution. And then eventually we will get to a point where these things hopefully will also be something of the past.
yeah. So also adding on to what you see, this I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this device that a South African created. So it's like an anti-rape device, and then basically it was ruled as cruel and inhumane because it literally like it. I don't know if you've seen it, but like it's been all over social media, and basically it's like this. You haven't seen it? Okay, so it's like this
No.
device that you insert. No, you haven't seen. So the woman inserts it, up her genitals, and then if she is raped, it like literally it. basically impales the man's genitals. Like it's yeah. And then the reason why it was not implemented is because it was ruled as cruel and inhumane. And then women have countered by saying, so what, rape's not inhumane and cruel? And it's
Sounds
like
like
I for one I for one do not believe in fighting fire with fire or violence with violence. But my my exception to that rule is when it's in defense. You know what I'm saying? So I will never agree if someone punches you, punch back. I'm not that type of person. But if someone is in danger and my life is being threatened and my dignity is being threatened, I don't think that it's inhumane to act out in defense. I'm not sure what you think about this, but I think that it was a brilliant invention, and I think that it should be implemented and it should be on the market and easily accessible to women. Because if someone's physically attacking me, you're telling me it's inhumane for me to attack them back. The logic, the reason doesn't make sense. Um, but I know
no,
you have some thoughts on it, Giovanni.
no, like unfortunately I didn't heard about this device yet, but no, I definitely think this shit needs to be market wide, like you said. It needs to be accessible and affordable, and that women everywhere should be using this thing. And I genuinely think that the deterrent of it should be enough for me to think twice, because like you're saying now, I don't really care for about maybe this sounds bad, it might be controversial, but like you're saying, in that scenario, I'm confused why we are thinking about the rapist and his safety. I think at the forefront here, should we not be thinking about the innocent woman here? I, I I struggle to understand why we are sitting here and talking about, but how does he feel? How is he gonna handle this? Well, maybe you should have thought about that because actions have consequences.
No, definitely. Thank you so much for your opinion on that, Giovanni. And then I'd also like to just go also into another rabbit hole. Guys, don't mind me. My thoughts are scattered and there's so much to discuss. But also the idea that pads should be free, that feminine hygiene products should be free. Accessible. I agree with it 100%. I don't understand why that's not a thing yet. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand why we have to pay for pads. It doesn't make sense. But condoms are free.
Okay, there I will have to have a slight
Giovanni?
disagreement with. Okay, okay, I'll let you finish first. Sorry.
No, I'd like to hear your opinion on it first.
I'm not trying to
You can
advocate.
tell me your thoughts and then I'll talk.
What yeah is that it shouldn't be a either or. People, because remember we just spoke about reproductive rights. We shouldn't now be taking away condoms because we want to give that. The government should be supplying both. The government should be making sure that hygiene products are available freely, because I don't think it's right that people, especially those that are underprivileged, right, have to not go to school, because we've heard about these stories about young girls being forced to stay away from school because they don't have pads. I think it's despicable. Look at already what's going on with the economy. Look at what's going on with the education system. The fact that women are having to stay away from because of that, no, I'm definitely against that. When we think about, I think it was implemented in Spain where they said they want to implement, like, I think 3 days off for women when they go to their menstrual cycle. I'm an advocate for the better. That doesn't mean you should take away other stuff. I'm always a thing of, why must we take away something else to give something? That's not how it works. There isn't a minimum supply. There's not, like, the government even really wanted to, because we've seen how tenders are spent. If they wanted to, they could. Okay, we don't have to take away one thing to give another thing. We could just so easily say pads will be available, tampons will be available, and condoms will be available. There doesn't have to be a choice between one or the other, especially when we know how prevalent stuff like HIV are in our country. I don't think we should try and solve one thing by taking away another. That's just the point I was trying to raise.
Okay, no, okay, I hear you. I hear you. And then I just also like I don't disagree with it. I think what I meant is just that I don't understand how pads have always been so readily accessible and available, but I'm sorry, why condoms have been so readily accessible and available. I feel like maybe this is a controversial opinion, but to me personally, I feel that hygiene, feminine hygiene, is more important. Well, not more important, but it on the scale of priorities, to me, I think that feminine hygiene should be more important than free condoms. That's just in my opinion.
like I said again, I don't think I want to make a hierarchy of what's important because of the fact that if you look at the current South Africa's in, when we look at how prevalent STDs are, when you look at how prevalent teenage pregnancies, I just don't feel like we need to pick and choose. I don't think there's a need to have an Olympics of, well, you know what, we're gonna have to move the budget around, or listen, we have to take something away. I don't think that's necessary at all. So that's why I think there should be duality. We can have sex education and also tell people that, listen, periods and tampons and all those kind of things should be taken care of. So I don't think we have to pick and choose there. That's just the point I'm trying to raise. I definitely want to go back to
Okay,
Allison's
not a
comment, by the way.
problem, Juvani. We can,
Yes, thank you for bringing it back
yeah,
up.
so about to address
Um,
that now too.
you can go for it.
You okay, not a problem. So Ellison in the comments asked, can y'all discuss the topic of how female contraceptives have these extreme side effects and it's okay, yet they found it too extreme for male contraceptives? That is a very good question, Ellison. So
That's
I
actually,
would also like I'll just address it if that's okay, Giovanni.
yeah, go for it.
So I think it's a very good, very good question. So I don't know if you guys heard about this, but or know about it, but we know like the side effects of the hormonal birth control is it's very long. I've seen it. I don't know if you ever do it, but it's basically a page and it's back to back, right? And it's not in a different language, guys. It's all in English. I wish I could show you, but I don't have those. It basically it's the long list of all the negative side effects, and it's if you go through that list it's actually terrifying, it's traumatizing. And then there is they've discovered, or not discovered, they've invented a male contraceptive. Like I don't know if it's a birth control pill or what it is, but basically they tried as hard as possible not to make it as um with as many side effects. And then I know recently they discovered that one of the side effects could be possible headaches. So that's why they're not like putting it out in the market yet, because men are saying, oh well, if it's going to give me headaches then I don't want it. And I feel like women have been saying for years how not bad, but how they feel after taking contraceptives, especially the hormonal birth control, like how it makes them feel bloated. You gain weight. It messes up your body in so many ways for so many different women. But because the men might possibly get headaches, they're saying, oh well, nope, too dangerous. We can't have that happening. It's these two sides of the coin, and it's not making sense. It's not equal. It doesn't make any sense to me. Giovanni, you might add something in English.
No, yes, I definitely remember because I know it's been years in the making that they've been taking male contraceptives, and I do remember that when they said they got, I know this was only still in the testing phase, and they said they've been trying to test it out, and the literal reason that it hadn't gone to market, and I'm pretty sure it's probably in America or somewhere in the Western world. The literal reason, like you said, it was the fact that there were minute side effects, and even if some of them were more severe, it was nothing more severe than the female counterpart. That's what's most important to note, like you said, whether it be headaches, whether it be let's say, like you said, weight gain, whether it be stuff like literally, I was thinking about that. I was gonna say like when it comes to self harm, depression, all those kind of things, right? These are things that women have already had to take on when they bought and used contraceptives. And men feel like that. That is just what does it say? They think about women's safety this entire time. If they feel like for themselves, that's too dangerous. I definitely agree with Alison.
Alison added a comment. This is how women are belittled in society. She also said that the literal side effects are depression and self harm, but headaches are too extreme. I like that comment. Um, Also, I just like to add, um, yeah, like women have not always. So, in my head, there's a difference between fairness and equality, right? So, fairness is just fair, equal. I just contradicted what I said, but I wanted to say that fairness does not always equate to equal in my head.
Yeah,
When I think of equality, I feel like people are equal. They they have an equal standing in society, and in the current society we live in, there's no equality between men and women necessarily. And I think that that is why it's very important for the feminist movement to be emphasized and pushed forward as much as possible. I'd also like to say that when some men, I know you got, okay, I'll get to you in a minute. When some men think that, oh, women want equality, well, this means I can hit them. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you want to be equal to men? Okay, let's go. You know what? That's what they think. I just want to add that that's not necessarily true. When I think of equality for women and men, I think that I also want to be able to go outside, with maybe just a vest on and not be killed. I want to be able to go into the workplace and not be undermined and not be underestimated, um, compared to my male counterparts because of me being a woman. That's what I think of when I think about equality and fairness for women and men. I'm not saying that men should be treated less equally. I'm not saying that, well, now that women um, are also getting equal pay as men, the men's pay should come down to where women's was. I'm not saying that. I don't want that. I just want us to be treated equally, fairly, and not be discriminated on based on gender. You know what I'm saying? Because how many times is it that I, as a woman, am ignored and like, okay, your opinion doesn't matter. What do you know? You're a woman. That's happened so many times to most women I know, and it's like we don't want like men to be in our position necessarily because it's not nice. Look at the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation. How many feminists want rooting for Johnny Depp, like saying, "Listen here, abuse is abuse. Abuse is wrong either way." You know what I'm saying? So I'd also like to address the fact that equality and fairness does not mean that men are going to be on the back burner because women just want some equality. Like just recognize us for our talents and our intelligence as well. Giovanni, you wanted to say something?
yeah. Like the difference I look at when you think about fairness and equality, looking at opportunity, one is looking at outcome. Fairness would be I don't know if everyone I feel like I've seen this image where there's like these three kids that are trying to look up the fence to watch a game and you need to distribute different crates to everyone. So fairness would be giving every person a crate, but you're not taking into account that the one child is taller than the other. So the one child might need 2 to 3 crates and the other child might just need one crate. So I think there should be in distributing like the same thing that should happen here when you guys are talking about like needing to make sure that there's equality between men and women, it might mean in this regard that okay, to make up for like past wrongs, to make up for where the current standing is, you might have to give more to one group to even it out so that in the end the outcome, and that's what to me is most important. It's not about um pay in terms of opportunity because some people might need more than the next person, especially if they've been marginalized in the past. So it's more important that you the outcome is all equal because that's what we want in society. Because with the outcome, it doesn't really matter that you get everyone fair opportunity, quote unquote.
Definitely. I completely agree with that. And I think it also ties into what I said though about fairness and equality. Fairness is then like um appreciated for everyone to be able to do, gender. And I think fairness also plays a role in, I've heard stories and like it's a lived reality for most women where basically we they get accused of sleeping their way to the top, but nobody ever holds the men accountable. But like, why are you proposing that in order for her to get a promotion she sleep with you? Why is that also not a discussion? Like, I feel like in society, whatever women do or does not do, it's always them that has to be accountable, even if it's for the actions of others. Like in the scenario I just gave, where a man is like, oh, you want to be promoted to manager, cool, sleep with me. Why is why is him not proposing that idea seen as ridiculous? But she's being called names because why did she make the proposal? And I think that that's also an important aspect to look at. I feel like no matter what women do or does not do, as I said before, it's always that we are being held accountable for other people's actions, which doesn't make sense to me at all.
No, I definitely agree with you in that regard. And I think that the best way I can describe it is that there's this constant contradiction that a woman needs to somehow be a slut and a prude at the same time, walk a fine balance. And that's what men want.
But based
But I
on what you're
definitely
saying,
think,
I feel like we can achieve that.
sorry, the other thing I just wanted to add, like you were talking about with the TikTok, well, the Latin term. You know, trying to talk about like give something to get something. I definitely think in that example, it's so great what you're saying there. It's in terms of they look at rather other women and they do a lot of the slut shame her for, like you said, supposedly working way to the top, rather than having the man be accountable for the fact that he's, you know, abusing his place of power. Because obviously in that scenario, that is a man that what she's done most likely hasn't actually done broken any laws, whereas a person using their what you call abusing their power as the senior person in in this opportunity because that's how they're able to give a promotion. That's the person that's actually in the wrong. That's the person that's actually manipulating and abusing their power, and that's the person that should be held accountable rather than saying, you know. And also the assumption in the first place that the only way that a woman can get her way to the top is in, like, you know, with this, like, you know, it's all boys kind of thing, and a woman makes it top. They have to assume that she must have stepped away to the top rather than saying on her own credit and her own merit that she could have made it there. You know.
No, definitely. And I just wanted to add to what you said. I think that we can attribute all of this to the patriarchy and to
Comes
basically
back to
sexism as a whole. Giovanni, what were you saying?
I said it always comes back to the patriarchy. Like whenever people complain about most things, it's to me there's only two answers for everything: capitalism and patriarchy. Those are like literally I blame everything on those two things in life.
And I just wanted to add to that, like, with regards to the patriarchy, I think I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something. Um, it will probably come back to me. Julie, do you have anything to add?
But I'm just
Oh
gonna
wait,
then go.
I've got it. Sorry,
Okay?
before I forget again. So basically, I
No,
wanted to add that I saw something. Okay, so I saw something, and then it was basically men complaining about, oh, women want rights and women want all these freedoms and expressions and all these things. But men have depression too. Men suffer from suicidal thoughts too. Men suffer from mental health things too. Men go through things too. And then they were like, oh, but men just have to be quiet about it. Men can't say anything if it's because it's a man's problem. And then someone countered that argument and said, okay, but what what was what implemented this though? What implemented this idea and this thought that, well, men can't say how they feel because then they're going to be looked at as weak? What what thought processes, what system created this idea that men can't show expression, men can't cry because then they're weak? What system created this? And then the answer, as you said, is patriarchy. Nobody's saying that a man can't be vulnerable. It's just that men won't allow themselves to be vulnerable because they are slaves to the patriarchy, and it's as simple as that. And most men don't even realize that because they have been so indoctrinated to follow the system of patriarchy, that they won't allow themselves to have emotions and to be vulnerable. And you can't blame that on women. I don't think that you can. Because even if it's a woman that's telling you, oh, you're a man, you can't cry, you need to, that's internalized misogyny speaking. And that's once again attributed to the patriarchy. So it's literally just like this, saying, it's this wide network that keeps coming back to the patriarchy, as you mentioned before. Yeah, and Alison also mentioned about parents teaching our brothers big boys don't cry. It's one system that influences thoughts and ideas. Giovanni, do you have anything to add?
No, I definitely agree with you. I think I've been telling men this for the longest time. Whenever they complain about anything, just tell them, okay, but is that because they want to complain into the ether without taking accountability for how they've contributed to the patriarchy, but also want to be victims of that same system. It doesn't work that way. You can't choose to have all the benefits where you want to talk about like you can't have hypermasculinity, you can't have toxic masculinity and all the stuff, right? But then complain about but depression rates are the highest, suicide rates are the highest. We go to wars and we die, and I'm like, all these things are the fault of other men. So I don't know who you want to complain with because you're talking to the wrong guy. So I definitely think that they've become victims to the system that they created, and that's why I don't understand why they don't want to advocate for women's rights. Because, like you said, if they genuinely want this to stop, right, dismantling the patriarchy will also help them inadvertently. While that might not be the main goal of feminism, there's genuinely benefits that they can come by, and that's why I don't understand why they're not more on board. Because, like you said, they don't have to bottle in their feelings and emotions if it wasn't seen as a bad thing to be more feminine, as a bad thing to talk about your feelings, as a bad thing to say, listen, I have depression, I need to talk about these kind of things, to go to therapy. These are all things that women have already been embracing. And if the men, and the reason men haven't done it because it's seen as feminine, because feminine is seen as something derogatory in our current society.
No, definitely. Everything that you just said, yeah, 100% agree with that. And then Kaylin mentioned again in the comments that childhood trauma has also played a major role of how we perceive the life we live today. That's 100% true. But also, um, the systems of oppression needs to take some accountability for that as well. I do agree with you, Kaylin. I'd also just like to mention that patriarchy, um, sexism, all of these things are to the detriment of the feminist movement. And I think that it's not going to be overturned within a day, within 2 days, within a month, maybe not even a year or 5 years. But I think that if we continue in our freedom, in our my words are leaving me. Basically, if we continue working towards this and continue working towards a better society for all, especially women, it will be realized someday, hopefully soon, hopefully for our children or great grandchildren to live in the freedom that we didn't get to or we don't get to. I'd still like to walk outside without being feared like I might get attacked, but I'm hopeful that that day will come soon enough. I'd also like to just thank everybody for joining the conversation. I hope that it really it was insightful and that it was enjoyable. I'd also just like to thank Juvani as the guest speaker for spending some of your time on this topic and for sharing your thoughts and opinions as a man. Wow. I do think that you are contributing positively to the feminist movement um, by just being here with us today and sharing your thoughts. That was really appreciated. And I'd like to thank um, Boy Sky and Shania, Peace Jam South Africa, mentoring Peace Builders South Africa for making this all possible. Um, and then once again, I just like to thank everybody that tuned into the conversation. It was very much appreciated. And then also, we loved all your comments and thoughts and ideas. Guys, please follow us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. It's at PeaceJamSA and then at Mentoring Peace Builders RSA and then at PeaceJamSA and at Mentoring Peace on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you so much for your time, guys, and for tuning in. Have a lovely afternoon further. Goodbye.